off with the class here. So it's been an Easter since we last did class, and I couldn't remember what we talked about. So I looked at the AI summary on the website, and the thing that I was like, oh yeah, that's right. One of the things we talked about is what we've seen with the minor prophets is one of two things. The first one is we were talking about there seems so much judgment forward, and then they kind of come like, but the Lord will save you kind of at the end. And that really resembles how we in the church are taught to preach and teach. We call that law gospel. And so it's all this like, you're bad, but the Lord saves type of thing. And all of these minor prophets seem to be kind of following that same thing. The other thing that they're doing is that Amos, Micah, they're quoting things like love. I think it says it right here. The ending. One of the last verses in the book is, he delights in the covenant of love. He will again show compassion. He will trample our evil. And it will toss. Oh, that wasn't it. Steps of the sea. It was, but basically, love, justice. Let's see. It's on this last one, 6 through 7. He has told you, O human, what good and what the Lord requires of you, to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. And that is the same thing in Amos. That was the same thing in Jonah. That was the same thing in Joel. That's the same idea. And that what Israel's become is they have become this thing that's so enamored with becoming powerful and becoming a big deal that they are pushing aside the poor and the outcast and all of these things. You see Revelation pick up all these same ideas in there with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, that one of them is the horse rider with the scales. And it's like, you guys are serving the markets rather than you're serving people. And so you see all of this come through all these minor prophets here. One of the things that really stuck out to me was, the judgment in the beginning of chapter 1, the judgment looked a lot like the Exodus things. Like the judgment looked a lot like the plagues in the book of Exodus. That was very interesting. The other one was the infographic here is prophetic wordplay. That there was all these the names of the cities, and we read them as like, they're names of the cities, but in Hebrew it meant things like bitter or deception, so like that. So the names actually meant these words, which our English brains would never pick up on. And I'm really disappointed that our English translations didn't do that work for us.
Well, the NIV gives you
does it?
in the notes.
Yeah, in the notes. And so like that's so you have all that I'm trying to get to.
I think Scripture lends itself to us digging. That there's a limited space for words, and it's when you do that digging that things are expanded, and you're like, would you look at that?
Yeah. Well, it's all these names of these cities, and when we're reading them, and the names of the cities meant different things. And it's like, okay. And it also reminded us in Revelation of the churches at the beginning. It was kind of listing off all these cities, and it's like, you're terrible, like and all of that stuff. And what I've really noticed, we did Revelation last year in the Bible study, and that'll be our Lent sermon series next year, by the way. We're getting ready for that. But that Revelation reads like these minor prophets. Like it's very, it's where all that stuff is coming from. And so let's see, what else?
Do you ever trace those cities to the modern day cities? which countries they're talking about, where people scattered to.
It's
Here an original city.
I haven't done any work like that. I haven't done any work.
It's kind of interesting to what you run across like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't done too much of that work at all. So the last thing that we noticed, we were talking about the coming heir. If you remember, that was verse 15 of chapter 1, and that's kind of the note here was that God is the rightful heir, disposing of the falsely secure in their power. That was that thing, but it was kind of cryptic in how it was put together there, and the way we put it was, well, the way I put it was, it sounded like Robin Hood and King Richard and the other guy, the sheriff of Nottingham, and how King Richard comes back as the rightful heir, but the sheriff of Nottingham is the guy that's controlling things right now, and he's no good. And so in chapter 15, when it's talking about the rightful heir.
So Micah is right in the middle of the northern kingdom being taken captive.
Mm-hmm.
And 100 years or so before the southern kingdom is taken captive.
So this was also really good. That reminds me of the first verse in Micah. It talks about Judah and all those things. And a lot of times when you read, like, Judah's like the one's like, ooh, you guys are being good. Well, Micah's like, no, Judah, you're just as bad. You're just as bad. And so, like, you may think, oh, like the northern kingdom is this one that's doing great, and is bad and all that. And the southern kingdom of Judah is the one that's like, ooh, you're the ones that are really devout and good. And Micah's calling them out. He's like, no.
Well, and when you look at us today, and really, as Ecclesiastes would say, there's nothing new under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
You see the evil around us, but
Mm-hmm.
there's 100 years between the northern kingdom and the Babylonian.
So
Seemingly,
Babylonians,
approximately.
Assyrians, they're all kind of.
And God gives us such time to turn around. What I see when you were talking about that is that God is saying here, I'm giving you these parameters to live within, and you're going to be blessed by living this way, and yet we just go our own way, and then but he's there.
But we become
redemption is still a part of the plan.
Oh yeah, and we become about power. We become about conquest. We become about warfare and dominance and not taking care of the needy amongst us. It's always these patterns that just come up and over and again, and all these prophets are talking about. And so one thing that I've said for a long time, and we've said in Bible study for a long time, is that my view of the Babylonian captivity, the Assyrian captivity, and all those things was that God basically said, well, if you just want to be Babylon so bad, that if you want to become the big one on the block and all those things, you can just become them. And so yeah.
Well, that just brought me back to, when they went into the land,
Mm-hmm.
they were told every 7th year to give the land the Sabbath,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't
Mm-hmm.
for 490 years. And then how long were they in captivity? 70 years. God took that Sabbath back from them. Why won't we just believe him?
So yeah, it is. Did anyone want to say before we start reading?
I'm just going to circle back to your lament about translation and speak up for the Lutheran Study Bible.
Yeah.
They do a great job with naked shame, bitterness.
Okay.
These are the names.
And were they in the notes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
Lie, deception, dowry.
Yeah.
Really snide.
Yeah.
I like that, what they gave is lamenting and
Yeah,
grieving
yeah.
in that particular one.
Yeah. And so where's an example of that? Give us a verse. Give us a verse.
That was 1:8.
8.
8. So like the New King James renders 8. Let's see, was it 8?
Well, maybe, but 10 also has the city starting it.
Yeah, so the city, let's see here. So, tell it not in Gath, weep not at all in Beth Araba. I don't know. Roll yourself in the dust. Now, did it say what those names meant there?
Yeah.
House of dust.
Okay, yeah.
Naked shame.
Naked Shay and the Beth.
Mhm.
All right. Like so all those names mean something. You got to look in the notes to see them, which, that's why I was like, I wondered if the English translators could do rather than just having the name there, if they could have.
Well, you might get that in like an amplified Bible or something like that.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for space.
Is your question?
No.
All of I know. To your question
It said
earlier.
it was, you were stripped and naked.
But all of these cities, they're in what is today, they're all west of the Jordan.
Yeah.
So they're in Gaza.
Oh, for the towns and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't find them by name in today's world, but that's where all those cities were located.
Right.
And what's now Gaza.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. That's good to know. All right. So let's read here.
Okay.
So chapter 2 is what we're going to read.
I'm sure it starts off.
Woe to those who devise iniquity and work out evil on their beds. At morning light they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. They covet fields and take them by violence, also houses and seize them. So they oppress a man and his house, a man and his inheritance. Therefore, thus says the Lord,
Behold, against this family I am devising disaster, from which you cannot remove your necks, nor shall you walk haughtily, for this is an evil time. In that day, one shall take up a proverb against you, and lament with a bitter lamentation, saying, We are utterly destroyed. He has changed the heritage of my people. How he has removed it from me. To a turncoat he has divided our fields.
Therefore you will have no one to determine boundaries by lot in the assembly of the Lord. Do not prattle, you say to those who prophesy, so they shall not prophesy to you. They shall not return insult for insult. You who are named the house of Jacob.
Is the Spirit of the Lord restricted? Are these his doings? Do not my words do good to him who walks uprightly? Lately my people have risen up as an enemy. You pull off the robe with the garment from those who trust you as they pass by, like men returned from war. The women of my people you cast out from their pleasant houses. From their children you have taken away my glory forever. Arise and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is defiled, it shall destroy, yes, with utter destruction. If a man should walk in a false spirit and speak a lie, saying, I will prophesy to you of wine and drink, even he would be the prattler of this people. I will surely assemble all of you, O Jacob. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. I will put them together like sheep of the fold, like a flock in the midst of their pasture. They shall make a loud noise because of so many people. The one who breaks open will come up before them. They will break out, pass through the gate, and go out by it. Their king will pass before them with the law at their head.
Okay. All right. What stood out to you in there?
All of the things that you wealthy people are visiting upon for your repossessions, your foreclosures, your seizures, it's all going to be visited upon you tenfold.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all those are also in the commandments. You got the 5th, 7th, and 9th commandments are all being broken here by the people.
Yeah.
They're coveting, they're stealing, they're taking away from people.
Well, and when they talk about in verse 2, they covet fields and they seize them, that is not the way God set it up when they went into the promised land. He had, it was to be, the land had a redemption plan. And here they are taking it.
Right.
God intended them to have that land forever. I mean, even in the book of Ruth, when, Naomi and her husband Elimelech left, and when they came back, Naomi still owned that field, or that field was still in her. And that, Chris, you take it further than I can here. The redemption, the redeemer, the kinsman redeemer.
Yeah.
Had the right to buy that, and there was a closer relative.
But and it's and everything that's being said here, like one of my favorite phrases is "careful what you wish for, you just might get it," and that's kind of what Mick said and all that. And then what going on to what Mom said there is, they're taking all these fields, and when you look at verse 4 and 5, they are doing all these battles, and it's all going to be destroyed. And verse 5 is a lament about all that. That therefore you will have no one to determine boundaries by lot in the assembly of the Lord. Like, you're destroying, everything. We were talking about Judges a little bit, and the whole thing with Judges is it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. You get to the point where they're destroying themselves, and that's kind of what I see is happening here. Is that you have all these people that, I can't remember exactly how Mick put it. You put it really well, though. Like, it's like they're taking everything for themselves, and they're basically destroying themselves.
And what you said about Judges, I mean, the most repeated phrase there is they did what was right in their own eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not today's world as well?
Oh, yeah. And I think that's the point. Yeah. All right. What else stood out to you in this? Those are all good things.
To your earlier point, you go 11 verses of woe, and then you get 2 verses of, but I'm going to come and save you.
Yeah, there at the end.
Yeah.
Like
I like verse 10, arise and go, for this is no place of rest. And Sunday you linked, the rest of creation with the rest of it is finished. And God, I mean, I think of Psalm 139, I'm kind of bouncing all over, but he hems me in behind and before. You look at these things and the world wants to say, oh, gosh, he's such a mean God. And he's not. He's put boundaries in place for our protections, for our good, for his glory. And
that's why I say be careful what you wish for. Like, if you want, I think that's like every genie movie is about, like, with the 3 wishes, that your wishes end up being the downfall type of thing, and that's I think like to that end, like the lottery shows that too. And that's kind of what you're talking about, is that you guys are breaking, by you wanting more and more and more, you're breaking how I set this all up.
Right. But he desires rest for us. I mean, Hebrews chapter 4 is the rest chapter. It's such a blessed chapter. But, you hit on it so well Sunday. I mean, he desires this rest for us. All of this stuff does not produce rest.
But the reason why everyone's doing it, it's like, oh, well, I'm gaining more for myself. but actually, it's going to be the downfall, and so let's see. Yeah. So what else stood out to you there? Mark and I we do not believe in changing sermon series the weekend after Easter. So we're doing the 8th day of creation, which is kind of like the new day. We got a Revelation 21, all that stuff. That's what we're talking about. But we're using Jeremiah 29 is the main idea there. And I saw echoes of that sentiment in verse 11, when it says that if a man should walk in a false spirit and speak a lie, saying, I will prophesy to you of wine and drink, that he would, I don't know what prattler of his people, but basically I don't know what that means. What is the other English translations, the end of 11?
One who flows, literally one who flows. I think, talks a lot and doesn't necessarily know what they're talking about, possibly.
He would be the preacher for his people.
Yeah.
Preacher is the word that we
So
It would just be a prophet for those people.
So one of the things that Jeremiah really does, it's like, if you continue reading past what we're doing, is that he's like, there's going to be all these people that are going to say, things are great. Like that, don't pay no mind. The wine, to quote here, the wine will be all the better. Like that. That's it. It's over there. Pay no mind to them.
Well, in Jeremiah 29, where people are saying things are good, things are good, things are good, and what is that most quoted verse?
29:11.
Yeah,
I know the plans that I have for you.
Right. And everybody uses that for such a positive thing, and it is. But that was his people going into Babylonian captivity.
Well, and they were already there, and that verse is said from like, hey, you're going to be here for a little bit. Build homes, get married, plant trees. The sermon title is plant trees, like all these things. Like do all these things in there. You're going to be here.
This is where I got you right now.
And that is a different vision than what we're getting in the thing where you don't see people planting trees and all those things. That you see people just trying to get what they can right now. Get everything, because they're trying to become, in my view, Chris, that should be Babylon.
I see it as just the continuation of chapter 1's monetization.
Yeah.
Of everything.
Yeah.
If you can make a buck, there you go.
Yeah.
This is about me.
And so, but I just thought it was interesting. Oh, like here it is. There's that thing that we're seeing in Jeremiah about, you got these guys that are preaching of all these, oh, look at all these good times, like that's, and they're like, yeah, these are false prophets. Like don't listen to them. See what they're actually doing. They're actually running roughshod over people. I mean, Jesus picks up on this idea. I've said this last week too, but Jesus picks up on this idea that the Pharisees are devouring widows' homes. Like that. That's all the same system is still there.
One of the footnotes was might makes right.
Might makes right. Yeah.
Doesn't it sound that way?
Yeah. Like that might makes right, and that's a great way to put it. And that's why I was amazed when we did Revelation, and I was like, oh, that's what those 4 horsemen were all about. Was might makes right, and everyone just is bowing down to them and the beast because they believe that might makes right. And so that's it's fascinating. All right. So we have, Vance mentioned it a little bit ago, but you have like Israel being restored here again. You get a little bit of that, what we would call the gospel there in the end of that. Anything else about that stand out to anybody?
What was the term you used? Gospel law?
Yeah, so we preach the way, our style of preaching in the Lutheran Church is law gospel.
Law gospel.
Yeah, like that's what it's called. There's a book by our first synodical president called, his name is C.F.W. Walther, and our kind of preaching manual is called Law Gospel by C.F.W. Walther.
Well, and the law should point us to the fact that we need the
Yeah.
gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And it does demand it, really. The law
Yeah.
demand grace bestows.
Yeah, yeah.
The old saying is.
Law demands and grace bestows. Yeah, yeah. And so,
Where is that? What are you quoting? What are you saying?
Well, it's just an old quotation.
From?
from Gloria.
Something I heard and decided to leave in my brain cells.
I will footnote you forever.
This was put in my Bible many years ago. Here's what it tells you. The law demands such a justice, love, mercy.
You weren't making it up, were you?
No, and then over here it says.
You gotta see the graphics of this lady. It's
I know.
See? And then it tells you it's love, joy, peace, long-suffering.
Very cool.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so are we doing 2? Want to move on to 3? All right. So let me get us over there.
I'm actually looking for something that I wanted to share, but, well, I got so many other things I want to do. It's hard to find.
All right, let's go into 3.
Hear now, O heads of Jacob, and you rulers of the house of Israel. Is it not for you to know justice? You who hate good and love evil? Who strip the skin from my people and the flesh from their bones? Who also eat the flesh of my people, flay their skin from them, break their bones, and chop them in pieces like meat for the pot, like flesh in the cauldron. Then they will cry to the Lord, but he will not hear them. He will even hide his face from them at that time, because they have been evil in their deeds. Thus says the Lord concerning the prophets who make my people stray, who chant peace while they chew with their teeth, but who prepare war against him, who puts nothing into their mouths.
Therefore you shall have night without vision, and you shall have darkness without divination. The sun shall go down on the prophets, and the day shall be dark for them. So the seers shall be ashamed, and the diviners abashed. Indeed, they shall all cover their lips, for there is no answer from God.
But truly, I am full of power by the Spirit of the Lord, and of justice and might, to declare to Jacob his transgression, and to Israel his sin. Now, hear this, you heads of the house of Jacob, and rulers of the house of Israel, who abhor justice and pervert all equity, who build up Zion with bloodshed and Jerusalem with iniquity. Her heads judge for a bribe. Her priests teach for pay, and her prophets divine for money. Yet they lean on the Lord and say, is not the Lord among us? No harm can come upon us. Therefore, because of you, Zion shall be plowed like a field. Jerusalem shall become heaps of ruins, and the mountain of the temple like the bare hills of the forest.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Text question.
Mhm.
Is it for poetic purposes, those who know more than I do, that within the same verse, the same sentence, both Jacob and Israel is used? For example, to declare to Jacob his transgression and to Israel his sin. Am I misunderstanding the identity between Jacob and Israel?
I don't think so.
Are they potentially referring to the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom? Because wasn't one of them known? Well, it was Israel and Judah at this point in time.
Actually, Jacob and Judah is a connection. And I think what they're doing is just setting an example of what Israel had done. Just added that in there.
I mean, the kingdoms were divided at
Yeah,
this
they were.
point in time.
But Jacob and Israel is the same name. So
I agreed.
yeah, like I kind of think,
I'm speculating, Justin. So,
yeah.
Again, I don't know whether it's poetic or not.
I think it's just emphasis. He says it in the translation. It says, "Hear this, you leaders of the house of Jacob, you rulers of the house of Israel." I think he's just echoing. You despise justice.
Well, and to go off of that echo idea, it could be talking about something that is bigger, like kind of in the sense of how we say holy, holy, holy. You know, we say that a bunch there is, but in there he's like from the past to the future type of idea. You know, because like Jacob became Israel, and it could be like, it's like, you guys can't weasel out of this. You know, it's like, oh no, we declare, I don't know, this is me conjecturing, but oh no, like we claim Jacob. You know, we're not Israel. You know, like I think that's too simple of an idea, but kind of all encompassing. Like you guys are all here type of thing. I don't know, because it is basically the same thing, that Jacob becomes Israel.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so that's because that is, but it's.
So the bad guys are using Jacob and Israel as weasel words?
Well, no, I don't think they're getting, well, I think it's talking about all those people that are taking advantage of others in Israel. And
Could it be kind of like, man and mankind, kind of a thing, Jacob and Israel?
I think, yeah. I think it also could be, hear now, O heads of the Sunshine State, and you rulers of the House of Florida.
Yeah.
You know, like I think it's probably something like that. You know, and so.
Now, was Micah a prophet to the northern kingdom, or was he a prophet to both? Because the northern, it was right then that the northern kingdom went into Assyrian captivity. Right in the middle.
The way that he yells about Judah at the very beginning, it's. I think he's coming.
Indicates both.
Yeah. Good. Like that. That's. I think he's doing.
And I mean, to be fair, that was the time of the northern captivity. The Babylonian captivity wasn't until another 100 years.
Yeah.
But I think he's speaking to both.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I do.
They both needed it.
The other thing, going back to next verse, if you continue reading, it says, "Hear this, leaders of the house of Jacob, you rulers of the house of Israel, you who despise justice and distort all that is right, who build Zion on the bloodshed, with bloodshed, and Jerusalem with wickedness." I think he's speaking to all the people of Israel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I like the idea that the leaders judge for a bribe and the priests teach for a price. Their prophets tell fortunes for money.
Yeah.
Back to the scales, but also
back to the scales.
We distorted the purpose. We're selling ourselves.
And that's again going back to Jesus' teachings. He's like look at that guy who is praying like, God forgive me, I'm a sinner, and the one guy who throws in a coin like, look at how much I gave, type of thing. That's all that stuff is kind of that same thing. And when they're let's see, okay, yeah, that was verse 10. The other one, so all these same people in verse 5 that it says, "Thus says the Lord concerning the prophets." So he's talking about these people that, the money here in 5 verses later. But he's like who make my people stray, but they chant peace, and one of my favorite ideas in Rome is that they call it Pax Romana, the Roman peace, which basically was like, you'll have peace once you do what we say, like that. That's,
And as long as you do what we say.
as long as you do what we say, like which means that's not peace, but that's what this sounds like. They make the people stray. They chant peace while they chew with their teeth, while they chew away, like getting fat off of all their stuff, and who prepare war against them, who puts nothing into their mouths. Like that. That's they're like, oh, they're prizing money to war rather than anything else, and that's kind of fascinating there. What else stood out to you here?
Taking personal fun and enjoyment reading about Luther and his associates, I'm reminded of, again, Pope Leo's head sales guy, a guy named Tetzel.
Yeah.
Who was the fundraiser
Yeah.
for theaters. He did a heck of a job.
Well, and it's in talking about Luther's history and all this stuff, like Luther cozied up with all the Germanic kings, and they were like, "Do you guys not want to pay taxes to Rome anymore?" And like that. And so it's like, yeah, that's a little uncomfortable with all that. Like that's and so and that was a big part of Luther's like fundraising arm and all that stuff. So, it's like, we're not as clean as we like to sometimes think we are, right?
Yeah, remember I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just because I like to keep time perspective in mind, they're 300 years from David at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is how
Yeah.
far they've, in 300 years, when you think of time as we know it today.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because when the Jewish people, the Israelites, would have read the sections in the second chapter, they would have been thinking about David and not the Messiah. But we look at them as pointing to the Messiah.
Yeah.
That they would have been looking to that king who does come from them at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also, like going back to the David stuff, that ending of that verse 5 where they prepare war against him and puts nothing into their mouths. Like God really doesn't like the warfare kings, like that's going over there. And I think you're getting some of that in there. It's like you guys would rather pay for war than helping the people out type of thing. You would rather, or I think as one of the other, what was it, Amos or was it Joel, like beating plows into beating
Yeah, right.
beating
Plows into swords.
well, that was the backwards one. But the other one was beating the swords and plows. Like that's
Well, in 5 also, he's slamming these prophets.
mm-hmm.
Where is it that he said, you'll know is it in Deuteronomy? That you'll know it's my prophet if what is said comes to pass, or something like that. I think it's in Deuteronomy.
Yeah. And also like prophecy, like especially here in the minor prophets, prophecy doesn't really necessarily mean future. It's not like, we
Well, no, I mean, I think of a
seer.
prophet in this text as a teacher.
Yeah. It's more of a preacher. And that's kind of like you've maybe heard Jesus described as prophet, priest, and king. Prophet kind of means that he is preaching. He's kind of like a preacher type of thing. We've kind of lost that definition.
Rabbi.
Do what?
Rabbi.
Rabbi. Yeah, exactly. And so, so prophet, priest, and king. Yeah. And so that's good. Let's see. Anything else in this chapter?
End's kind of interesting with that. Zion will be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem will become a heap of rubble. The mountain hill will be a mound overgrown. The Temple Mount will become a mound overgrown with thickets. In the last days, the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wrote something there.
Well, and so on the timeline again, this is 300. Well, Solomon built the temple, so how many years after that temple? And of course, I'm of the firm opinion that God never intended for it to be a temple, because the tabernacle was a truer picture of what God had, because he tabernacles with us.
Mm-hmm.
We move around. We're not stationary things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. Or at least that's a consensus that we've come to as well. Like that's I think it's interesting that he's talking about how the mountain of the temple, so he's talking just like when Jesus said, throw this mountain to the sea. It's basically the same phrase, except it's just saying that it'll be like bare hills in a forest. There's nothing there. And so, like when Jesus says those things, like you throw this mountain in the sea, he's talking about throwing the temple into the sea. Like he's basically saying the same thing Micah is here. And everyone gets
There's no temple at this point. That's what I'm not understanding.
No, but
Well, you have Solomon.
Solomon's temple
Solomon's temple
has been in place for 300 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So in verse 9, he says, now here.
That temple will be destroyed, though, shortly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now hear this, heads of the house of Jacob and rulers of the house of Israel, who abhor justice and twist everything that is straight. I mean, that is coming in John. Jesus refers to Satan as the father of lies.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, here it is. I mean, right there. And then in 2 Corinthians, the cool part, which is down at the end of these chapters in my mind, is chapter 1, verse 3, blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort. I just, and that Father, I always struggled with that Christmas passage in Isaiah, that eternal Father. He calls Jesus eternal Father. And our pastor likened that Father to like the father of our countries, the father of our founding fathers. He was the first one. He was the firstborn of eternity. So here, when we see God is the Father of mercies, oh my word!
So
how cool is that?
So yeah, going back into verse 9, 10, 11 there, it's all these like the heads of the house of Jacob, rulers of the house of Israel, who abhor justice and pervert all equality. Like, and then it goes into, it's like, you guys are just doing all this for the money. Yeah, like all this. So this is why you're doing it. And the note I wrote on there is one of the things, and you still see this, today too. Like but these people would have been the loudest to say, nothing can harm us because we are the Lord's. So we can do whatever bad thing we want.
Yeah.
It's not we are the Lord, so we serve like the Lord. I can get away with murder and nothing bad will happen to me because I am God's. That's the twist. That's the twist in there, and that's kind of that's how I hear that being said. And basically, Micah's, there's like everything you hold dear is going to be plowed, and it's going to be like a forest, which is very that's kind of that's interesting.
Yeah, that emphasis on that word saying.
Mm-hmm.
If they lean on the Lord saying.
No harm can come to us.
Your inheritance is going to be desolation.
Yeah. Like that's just as you are treating these people, so you shall.
And
be treated.
From this point in history, we know where that happened.
Yeah.
God doesn't speak
Well,
without
and
meaning.
so we'll need to be closing up. We'll kind of finish with the reading there. But as you can see, in how it's describing, how Micah is describing the people here, is not too dissimilar to how Babylon and these other nations of the world would be described and how they are treating. And I think it's making this case. It's like you are no. It's not saying that. This is what I'm adding right now. It's not saying this directly here, but it's you're saying that you're better because I'm the Lord's, but you're acting like all these terrible people because you could see that. Now think about what we've read so far here and in the other prophets, and then think about what we know about from Jonah. Jonah is the other side. He is these prophets that Micah is talking against here. That he is complete. Like, I don't want kindness to fall into anyone else.
Pouting because God's going to bless them.
Yeah. I don't want all these things. Others, like, I am the Lord's. These people are the Lord's. They're not. I don't want anything good for them. Like that. And so and Jonah is who he's preaching against.
And yet you've got Rahab, who was great grandmother to, she was Boaz's mother. No, Boaz's grandmother. And then Ruth the Moabitess, that are all in the lineage of Jesus. I mean, us Gentiles were there in the beginning of God's mind. Part, we should say.
Yeah. And so I don't think we don't have time to get through another one. But going through 2 today is good. Okay. So did anyone else have any other thoughts? Any thoughts for this? This was a good study today.
When will your AI summary of this be up on your website?
Probably today. It's on my.
Okay.
Yeah, I can show you do all that too. Like that's.
I love how God doesn't leave us without redemption, even in those prophets. He's so clear that I have redemption for you folks. Wake up.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I can't imagine Micah being invited to a lot of parties.
Yeah, I don't think so. He is in the writings though, like that. That's which is interesting. But and that's also why we have 1st, 2nd Kings, and what's the other ones of the Kings? Chronicles, 1st, 2nd Chronicles. Those are the same stories, but one was written before and one was written after the captivity. And so it's kind of like, we should probably revise some of what we said back then.
What I was looking for in my photos, because I'm always taking photos of things to keep, but it was a thing that talked about how there's so many documents of Genghis Khan, and yet we don't argue with the fact that Genghis Khan existed. And many of them were written 500 years, the oldest manuscripts, like 500 years after he lived. And Julius Caesar and other guys, and how few documents there really are to document them. And Jesus, there are many original scraps that were written within 30 to 50 years of his resurrection. And there's over 25,000 documents. And yet the father of lies comes in and says, don't believe this.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's documented that there's more documentation on his life closer than all these others, historical features. But I had a piece of paper with stats on it that lost my mind.
Well, good deal. Is there anything else? Anything else? All right. Well, we'll end the study part right now. Thanks for everyone who's watching this recorded on the YouTubes.
We
Bye,
appreciate
Lane.
we appreciate travel mercies in your prayers.